All right, so today we're taking a deep dive into the world of Sharlto Copley.
Oh, interesting choice.
Yeah, we've had a ton of listener questions about him.
Really? What kind of questions?
Just like wanting to know more about him, like
Yeah.
where he came from, what his deal is, the whole nine yards.
I get it. He's got that certain something. Hard to pin down.
Exactly. So luckily, we've got his Wikipedia page and a super interesting article from South African History Online to help us out.
Nice. Should be fun.
Totally. And you know what's cool? Like right off the bat, both sources point out that he was born in Johannesburg.
Johannesburg. Okay.
And November 27, 1973. And apparently, even in high school, he was already super into film and theater.
No kidding.
Yeah, and not just, like, messing around. He actually formed a whole production company with his friend, Simon Hansen.
Wow. That's pretty ambitious for a high schooler.
Right. And speaking of ambition, they ended up moving their whole operation to Cape Town.
Cape Town, huh?
Yep. And you wanted something else.
Lay it on me.
Their first project together, Alive in Johannesburg, ended up being the foundation for District 9.
No way. Really?
Yeah, it's like even though District 9 is all sci-fi and stuff, you can see those roots, that connection to his early work.
I never thought about it like that.
In District 9, I mean, that's the movie that really put him on the map.
Oh, absolutely. His performance as Weakest was incredible.
Right. Critically acclaimed, Oscar nomination for the film, the whole shebang.
And you know what's even crazier?
What's that?
All of Weakest's dialogue, totally improvised.
Wait, seriously?
Yep, not a single line was in the script. He just went with it.
That's insane. Talk about talent.
Right, it's like he really becomes the character. You can't teach that.
So we've got this guy deeply connected to South Africa, making waves with this mind-blowing sci-fi film, and he's also a master improviser.
It's impressive, right?
Totally. So where do we even go from here? He doesn't exactly stick to one genre or character type, does he?
Nope, not at all. And that's what makes him so interesting. He's all over the place, in a good way, of course.
Like, what else has he been in? I know he was in the A-Team.
Oh, yeah.
He was hilarious as Murph.
And he was the bad guy in Elysium, right, with Matt Damon.
Yep, that's him. Agent Kruger. Totally different vibe.
Oh, wait, wasn't he Chappie, too? Like the voice and everything?
Yeah. Voice and motion capture.
Yeah.
That's some serious range right there.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. This guy has done it all. But what about, like, his personal life? Do we know anything about that?
Well, the sources mention that he married a South African actress and model, Tanit Phoenix.
Huh.
That was back in 2016.
Oh, cool.
And they have a daughter together. Seems like a pretty private guy, though. Not a ton of info out there.
That's fair. But I did read somewhere that his dad was a university professor.
Really?
Yeah, and his brother is a musician, leads a band in Cape Town.
Huh. So creativity runs in the family.
It definitely seems that way. All right, so we left off talking about how Sharlto Copley can basically do it all, right? Oh, yeah, for sure. From comedy to sci-fi, he seems to handle it all like a pro.
And speaking of sci-fi,
Yeah,
we can't just gloss over Chappie.
definitely not. What an interesting movie that was.
You know, what gets me about that role is he wasn't just the voice, right?
Right. I mean, everyone knows he did the motion capture too, but you're right, it's worth highlighting.
I mean, that's a whole other level of commitment, right, to actually become the character physically.
Absolutely, you're not just delivering lines, you're creating the movement, the mannerisms, everything.
And for me, what really stood out was how he made this robot feel so real, so human.
Oh, I totally agree. Like, there's this one scene where Chappie is discovering the world for the first time.
Oh, yeah, where he's experiencing music and art and all that.
Exactly. And you can just feel that sense of wonder and innocence through Copley's performance.
Crazy, right? Because he's basically acting in this empty space with all those sensors and stuff.
I know. But he still manages to convey all those emotions so powerfully. It really shows his range as an actor.
Yeah, because, I mean, think about it. He goes from playing this awkward bureaucrat in District 9 to this sentient robot in Chappie, and he nails both.
Talk about versatility. And it's not just the surface level stuff either. He brings real depth to those emotions.
Like when Chappie realizes he's not going to live forever. Oh, man, that gets me every time.
Right. The look on Copley's face, you can just feel the fear and confusion. It's heartbreaking.
It makes you really think about what it means to be alive, to be aware of your own mortality.
Deep stuff. And it shows how seriously Copley took the role, He wasn't just phoning it in.
So we've talked about his heartwarming robot side, but we got to talk about his villain roles too.
Oh yeah, he can definitely play the bad guy, no question.
Agent Kruger in Elysium, that was
It's
intense.
so cold and ruthless, you could feel the danger radiating off him.
Totally different energy from Adrian Price in Spike Lee's Old Boy, though.
Oh, absolutely. Price is more like calculating, manipulative.
Creepy, right? Like he's so calm and collected even when he's doing awful things.
I know, it's chilling. It's amazing how Copley can embody those different kinds of villains so convincingly.
Do you think, like, playing the villain limits an actor's range? Or does it actually show a different kind of strength?
That's a good question. I think for Copley, it definitely showcases his versatility.
Yeah, because he really commits to those darker characters, explores those shadowy parts of human nature.
Right. And he doesn't play them as just like pure evil, you know? He finds the humanity, the motivation, even in the bad guys.
But, okay, before we get too serious, we can't forget his comedic side.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Murdoch and the A-Team was just pure fun.
That manic energy, the way he could switch between accents and personalities on a dime.
Remember the scene where he's pretending to be a Scottish psychiatrist?
I
Hilarious.
know, it's not just the voices, it's the way he embodies each character so fully.
It reminds you that he's not just a dramatic actor, you know? He's got comedic chops, too.
It's cool that he can be so silly and over the top, you know?
hmm
It shows a different side of him as an actor.
Totally. And speaking of different sides, even though he's done all this other stuff, people still mainly know him for District 9, right?
Sure, that's like his signature role. He put him on the map, earned him all that acclaim.
Right. But I think it's important to note, he hasn't just rested on his laurels, you know?
Totally. He could have easily become typecast as the sci-fi guy.
I know. But he's actively chosen roles that challenge him, push him out of his comfort zone.
And that's what makes him so exciting to watch, right? And you never know what he's going to do next.
Exactly. He keeps us guessing, keeps us entertained, and keeps proving how talented he is.
So I got to ask, what do you think about his future as an actor? What kind of roles do you see him taking on?
Hmm. That's a tough one. I mean, he's got the range to do anything, really.
Do you think he'll stick with the big action stuff or maybe go back to his indie roots a bit more?
Honestly, I could see him going in any direction. Maybe even directing or producing at some point.
Oh yeah, he's already got that experience from Alive in Johannesburg.
Exactly. And who knows, maybe he'll go back to South Africa and tell more stories from there.
That would be awesome. He's got such a unique perspective on that part of the world.
I'm excited to see what he does next, that's for sure.
All right, so we're back. And I got to say, exploring the world of Sharlto Copley has been a wild ride.
It really has. I mean, who knew one actor could have so much range?
Right. And you know what else strikes me? It seems like he's always drawn to these projects that are a bit, well, different.
You're absolutely right. He's not afraid to take on roles that are offbeat, a little unexpected.
It's like he could have easily stuck with those big Hollywood action flicks after District 9, but he's always looking for something more unique.
Totally. He seems to want those roles that really let him flex his creative muscles, you
But
know?
it's not just the roles themselves, right?
Mm.
Think about the directors he's worked with. Neil Blomkamp, Spike Lee.
Exactly. These aren't your average run-of-the-mill filmmakers. They're visionaries, pushing boundaries, and it seems like that's what Copley's drawn to.
Yeah, it's like he wants to be part of something that's bigger than just another movie, you
Yeah.
know, something that's really pushing the limits of what cinema can be.
And you know, that brings us back to something we touched on earlier, that connection to his South African roots.
Right. Even in those films that aren't set in South Africa, you can often sense this underlying social commentary, this engagement with complex issues.
It's like he's always aware of those bigger themes, you know? Power, inequality, the human condition. Those things are always present in his work, even if they're not front and center.
It's subtle, but it's definitely there. It's almost like he's using his platform to give a voice to those issues, to those stories that might not otherwise be heard.
It's not preachy, it's just woven into the fabric of the story, which makes it even more powerful, I think.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what do you think is the biggest takeaway for our listeners? What's the one thing you really hope they remember about Sharlto Copley?
I think it's that he's a true artist through and through. I mean, he's not just an actor, he's a storyteller, a collaborator, someone who's constantly pushing boundaries and using his platform to make a difference.
He's a reminder that art can be this incredible force for change, for social commentary, for exploring what it really means to be human.
Absolutely. And he does it all with a sense of humor and playfulness, too.
It's been such a fascinating journey exploring his world, and I really hope our listeners are inspired to check out his work and see for themselves the incredible range he brings to every role.
And who knows what the future holds for him? With his talent and his drive, I have a feeling we'll be seeing a lot more from Sharlto Copley in the years to come.
Well said. And with that, we'll wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring and keep being curious.